Hello, welcome. Just about to get started for the webinar. Just got a few people who've turned up. We've got many that have requested the recording, over 200. So we'll get into it very shortly. Feel free to jump in at any time and ask any questions as we're going along. So let's get started. Go across to the PowerPoint presentation and have a look at how to set yourself up for success in 2026, especially as a leader, okay, and what that means and the methods that have been used to make this very effective. So let's jump into it. Firstly, a little bit about me. I'm someone who's a Collingwood supporter in the AFL. We had a good year a couple of years ago, and that's me on the left-hand side with my son and my partner at the grand final. Not so good in the last year or two, a few injuries pre-season this year. I also like to keep fit, so I do the occasional fun run, as you can see on the right-hand side. And I've been involved with leadership development, leadership coaching for nearly 20 years now, after a 20-year corporate career, and that's a photo of me with one of the groups that I work with over the years. I've worked with many. So a little bit more about my background. I first became a manager in my late 20s, and I didn't have any training. I was a good performer, but I made a lot of mistakes as a manager. And I was trying through trial and error to improve. And I thought I was doing pretty well, but I wasn't really doing that well. I worked long hours and sort of figured that working hard was one of the key factors that would make me successful. But eventually I got some leadership training and coaching, and then I improved more in a year than I had in the previous 7 years. And then others noticed and started to ask me what I was doing and to help them and coach them. So that led to me becoming a full-time leadership coach over 15 years ago, and I run leadership training and coaching. I've run for over 1,500, probably past 2,000 now, and coach well over 300 managers. And I've hoped to help those managers to work less hours and have a balanced life and get promoted if they wanted to and earn more, hit targets, have a motivated and high-performing team, and increase their job satisfaction. So let's have a look at what is happening for managers in the world today. So here's some of the key things that usually happen for people. Like me, you're one of the best performers, you're an expert. Management relied on you to get it done, so you got promoted to be the manager. But did anyone sit with you and discuss what it was like to transition from being an expert, the person who gets it done, into managing people? Mostly that doesn't happen. And was it explained to you about the different requirements in terms of skills, a whole new set of skills that's required to be a highly effective manager and leader? Most people say no, they didn't know about this. And did you get some comprehensive training and support for 6 to 12 months when you first became a manager? And almost nobody gets that. Many get nothing, some get maybe a little bit of training. And these days, many people are expected to do full or part of their old role as well as taking on the manager role. And what this has led to is low engagement with managers. Managers are even less engaged than the average staff member. Okay, so it's very low engagement scores. The number one reason managers are less engaged and that they leave roles is that they're burning out or the fear of burning out. Over 70% of managers are experiencing ongoing work stress and feeling overwhelmed. So what this means is that managers are set up for failure, not success. And over 80% of managers literally feel that their organisation could have done a lot more to set them up for success in their role. So what we want to do today is give you an opportunity to look at how you can set yourself up for success. Okay, because we don't want to have to rely on our organisation to do it for us. We want to move away from this feeling of stress and overwhelm into one where you're feeling balanced and confident and in control. So here are the key steps that we're going to work through today, and we're going to make it interactive in the sense that I'm really going to literally give you the chance to do some of this quickly as we're moving along. You get an opportunity to also get the recording and go back over it so that you can go through it in more detail if you want to. So here are the key steps. All right. Firstly is to reflect on what was 2025 like for you, and give yourself a rating for your whole life. We're not just talking about work here, for your whole life. And then decide for 2026, what are your 3 highest priorities in your life priorities. So for example, health could be one of them. Then we want to set a SMART goal for each priorities. Lots of us have heard about SMART goals. Very few people use them, and they are really effective. Okay. And then we want to allocate, block, and protect time to work on these priorities. This is one of the things that most people struggle with. And then make yourself accountable. Okay. So we'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail and give you an opportunity as we're going through to actually look at completing part of it today as a first draft of setting this up. And often the first thing that comes to mind when you're doing it relatively quickly is the actual best response for yourself. Okay. So please feel free to jump in and ask any questions as we're going along. All right, so let's create a successful 2026 plan for you so you can lift the cup. All right, so the first thing to do, and let's literally do this now, you can put it into the chat if you want to. So give yourself a rating out of 10 for your whole life over 2025. Okay. And many people find this initially feels difficult. And one of the main reasons is they didn't really know what they wanted to do or achieve or feel or be in 2025. So they're not sure how they want to rate it. Okay. So that in itself gives you a clue that it's very difficult for you to have a successful year if you're not really sure what you wanted to achieve. So I'll just give you 20 seconds to write down a number. At this point, it doesn't matter that you've done a deep analysis. The best thing to do is give yourself just a quick initial feeling. What's my gut feeling? What's my initial thought as a rating out of 10? Okay. So most people are rating themselves between 4 and 7. All right. And what we want to do is set yourself up to be at least an 8, if not a 9 or 10 out of 10, where 10 out of 10 is you having a great 2026. It's not perfect by any means, but it's setting yourself up to achieve the things that you would like to achieve and feel across the year. So hopefully by the end of the year, you'll be giving yourself 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10 when you reflect on 2026. Right, so the second step here is for us to decide on your three highest priorities in your life for 2026. Okay, that's just at a high level view of what it is that you want. All right, so just depending on where you're sitting, it could be about your career, it could be about leadership, it could be about getting some balance in your life, which is one of the most common goals that comes up for the managers that I work with, because they're feeling that overwhelm and that disengagement that we spoke about earlier from the research. Okay, could be about some of your relationships at work, outside of work. So this is to give you a sense of a whole life priority, and it keeps us in perspective around our work life, because it helps us to make sure that we don't see work as the be all and end all and consuming us as we're going through 2026. Because for most people, when they reflect on their year, on their life, it's about outside of work things that are most important, health, relationships, more than how hard did they work or how many promotions did I get. Okay. So it's an opportunity for you to take a minute or two just to think, what's the first thing that comes to mind about your 3 highest priorities for your life for 2026? Okay, I'll keep moving along. As I said, you'll get an opportunity to get the recording of this, so this will be a way for you to look over it again, go through it on the video, and go do it in more detail if you want to. At least get something down as we're going along. So the next thing that we want to do is turn each of these into a SMART goal. Okay, where SMART refers to being specific, being measurable, being achievable, being relevant, and being time-bound, having a time frame around it. Okay. Then the second part of this, which is something that most people don't do, and a lot of people have no idea about, is connect to what are the benefits and feelings around achieving this goal. And it's a double check for our relevance, and it also helps us to dive below the surface and get to why is this important. So setting SMART goals helps to make it much clearer in our own mind and helps us break down into steps and set milestones along the way. For example, one of the most common ones is if we've got a health goal and somebody decides that 2026 what they want to do is get healthier. They want to exercise more and eat better. Okay, that is a very broad goal. It's not a SMART goal. To turn that into a SMART goal, we look at something very specific. So somebody might say, okay, so what could I do that would help me move more and exercise more? Oh, I want to give running a go. They might say, all right, there's a Melbourne half marathon in October. Okay, that's longer than I've ever run before. I think that would be a great challenge for me. Okay, so it becomes about setting that goal. I will run the Melbourne half marathon in October 2026. And that becomes specific about what it is that you're going to do, how far you're going to run, measurable, achievable. So you need to figure out if that's achievable. If you've never run before, that might be too big a stretch. But if you're someone who's run a few times, run 5 kilometres up to 10 kilometres occasionally, here and there, maybe you used to run, then that should be achievable. Relevant is where it connects into making you healthy. Okay, so we're doing this as a way to help you to become healthy because that was, in this example, somebody has identified that as one of their top 3 that they wanted to focus on. And then the time bound, we've got October specifically as the date that the event is on. And then that gives us an opportunity to break it down into steps and milestones of how often did you want to run per week in order to build up to the training. And then you could even set it in terms of how far each of those runs or over across certain months, what will the distances be? Okay. So that's where we want to turn it into something specific. The same if you're looking at a leadership goal, right? So instead of just going, I want to be a better leader to my team, or I want to create a high performing team, it would be turning it into something specific where it might be, I will mentor and coach 2 of my team members for all of 2026, meeting with them every month to help them grow in the skills that they see as most important. And we will have 10 meetings before the end of 2026. So setting something much clearer, much more specific. And then what we want to look at is, let's have a look again. How come I really want to achieve this goal? What are the benefits? How do I want to feel? Okay. So for the one about running the half marathon, might be about I feel more energy, like I'm healthy, and I want to feel proud and confident in myself. Okay. Might be that I want to feel fit and energized. So it's putting down something there about what are the benefits? What is it going to feel like when I achieve this goal? And this is where you do a double check in, because if you're not sure what the benefits are, or if you're not sure about the feelings, then is this really the right goal for you? So maybe we need to change. You need to look at changing that and connecting with something that is really important to you, that you know is going to give you a sense of some benefits, some improvements, and you know clearly what the feelings will be for achieving it. Okay, this is where it's okay to go back and change what your top 3 priorities are or rewrite your goals? Many people do. I'll give a quick example from someone I was coaching this morning who had previously set for themselves a goal about getting regular promotions. And they've been focusing on that. And they've been frustrating that the last promotion hadn't come quickly enough. They were also feeling like they were struggling a bit with confidence and at times getting a bit of a sense of imposter syndrome. So we checked in and had a look at why did he want the promotions? What was the purpose around setting that as a goal? And what came through was the feeling that, that means I'm progressing. Well, what do you mean? I asked, what do you mean by progressing? And it's like, well, growing and developing. So, what do you want to look at in terms of growing and developing? Could you be growing and developing without getting a promotion? Is that really what you're looking at? And he said, well, yeah, actually, growing and developing is actually more important than the promotion. And then he ended up rewriting his goals, his focus around leadership for himself and turning his team into a high-performing team. And he's working at the moment on setting the exact objectives and SMART goals around that. So that can be what happens here when you do the check-in with what are the benefits, how do I want to feel when I'm achieving this goal? All right, let's keep moving on. The next key part is to make sure that you're prioritizing by allocating, blocking, protecting time to work on these priorities. So you're not just trying to fit them in, you know exactly when you're going to invest time in them. Okay, and you have a system, a way of blocking time and protecting it. So if you're doing the goal around running the half marathon, it's not about, I'll see how I go running 2 or 3 times a week, if I get up early enough. Or when I'm not working and I'm too busy, I'll fit them in, either before I go to work or at the end of the day. That doesn't work very well. What you need to do is look at when you're going to run, in the morning or when you get home from work or at lunchtime, whenever it works for you. Okay, then block out the time, commit. Which days are you going to run? Block that in and make that a priority. If someone else says they want to do something at that time, right, so unless it meets another priority that's even more important, you set your boundaries and stick to the time that you've allocated for achieving these outcomes, these goals. Same with the one around coaching and developing team members to improve your leadership skills. So when you block it, when you put in the time to have one-on-one conversations to coach and mentor your team members, then you stick to that. Right? You don't try and fit those meetings in around things and move them and change them and cancel them because you're busy at work. You protect them and make sure that they happen. And you need some sort of system or approach to make that happen. Okay. So start to think about mapping out right now, how will you make that happen? When will they happen? When will the times be that you're going to be working on your highest priority goals? Now, here's the next step, which most people don't do, and it's one of the reasons why we drop off our New Year's resolutions and our goals very quickly. Okay, even if we do set up some SMART goals, right, just relying on ourselves is hard. But as soon as we make ourselves accountable to somebody else who will both support us but also be honest with us, right, and ideally even be able to guide you along the way if you're struggling or if you need a little bit of advice, okay, to hold you accountable. I call them an accountability partner. So schedule time to talk to your accountability partner. Sometimes it might only be 5 to 10 minutes. Sometimes it might be half an hour to an hour, but regularly. Ideally every 2 weeks or somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, be checking in, and that will hold you accountable to be making progress. Right? And another key part is to discuss how are you actually allocating time and energy to the goals. that connects back to the previous steps. So find yourself an accountability partner. And what the research shows is that more than triples the chances that you will achieve these outcomes that you're setting up. So now we're starting to build one on top of the other, multiples of how likely we are to achieve these goals and set ourselves up for success. And that's what we want to do. Get there to have a great year in 2026 as a manager and a leader. So when you put all those things in place, you have got a great chance to be a success. And here's just a couple of examples. This is first Alex, which I'll let you read through. Then I'll show you one more of what it's been like to work with me and in my programs. So I encourage you to have made notes as we've been going along, turn that into a plan. And Jude, who was working with me, did that. Now I can be your accountability partner if you want to. Leadership programs fit into that. And I can give out some winners who will receive some free leadership coaching as part of this process. If you would like to know more about how to work with me, then you can take this link to watch a short 10-minute video on how I work with people and set up the coaching. Or you can email me, the email address here, michael@leaderize.net. But let's take time here just to see if we have any questions.
I'm all good, thank you.
All good? Great. Thank you very much. All right, so no questions at the moment. So they're the key steps to take you through setting yourself up to be a success in 2026. I guarantee you, with my experience and with the research, that these will make you 4 or 5 times more likely to achieve the goals, where you will see that 2026 is a successful year for you. Now, one of the biggest challenges for most people is that there are a lot of distractions that come in, and particularly at work. And unfortunately, our organizations operate in a way, as I said earlier, that tends to set us up for failure rather than for success. So I encourage you to really stick to putting this in place, create boundaries around these, protect those. If you have any questions along the way about making that work, then please feel free to contact me. You've got the email address, so I'll bring that back up again. And you can also contact me through LinkedIn. Happy to help you along the way any way that I can. So we'll wrap up now. All the best for creating 2026 as what I call a personal best year, setting yourself up for success and having a wonderful year across 2026 that you feel really satisfied and proud of and happy with by the time you get to the end of the year. Best of luck, and I look forward to seeing you again at another leadership webinar very soon. Thank you and have a great day.